The Whirlpool Galaxy is currently visible from my location in southern Indiana. So I'm going to do an imaging session of it with my Skywatcher Evostar 100 ED APO Refractor telescope, and I invite you to come along and enjoy the ride. I've slewed to M51, so I'm going to do a plate solve and resync. I'll speed this up a little bit. You'll see that it reports the number of sources it found and then the adjustment that it makes once the plate solving is done. So we can see that it was off 0.15 degrees. I'm going to increase the exposure time to 2 minutes. And then while that's capturing that frame so we can see what that looks like to see our target, I'm going to start the guiding, PHD2 guiding. I'll speed this up and we'll let this build on the graph so we can see how the guiding is going to do. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to switch back to sharp cap, and here we see M51 in the center, and the histogram looks pretty decent. So 2 minutes, sticking with my gain and capture area because that way I can use the same set of darks and flats once I get these 3 targets completed. So I'm going to start this capture, and I'm going to go with an hour and a half. And that'll be done at 1:45 a.m. Okay, checking in here on the M51 imaging session, and it's about halfway through, a little more. Here's what the guiding's looking like right now. And then this is what things are still looking like in sharp cap, pretty much the same. So we'll check back in at the end here. So this is the end of the session of imaging M51. So now I'm going to capture some darks. And I'm going to go for 15 dark frames. The capturing of the darks has completed, so now I'm going to set up to capture some flats. So I'm going to reduce the exposure down to something like 2 seconds, and then we'll bring the gain down to get the histogram right. Somewhere around 40 is about usually right, a little bit less. It seems like I adjusted the dimmer accidentally, so I'm going to tweak this a little bit to get the histogram looking better. That's looking good on the histogram now. I have it at 1 second and 44 gain, so I'm going to capture some flat frames. I'm going to go with 200. This is only going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to speed this up. So now that we have our light frames, dark frames, and flat frames all captured, we'll use Astropixel processor to do all the calibration and stacking and processing. So I just chose the light frames. I'll also choose the flat frames as well as the dark frames, and then set the sorting to be based on quality, and then kick off the analyze, which will start the calibration and analysis of the frames captured. So just checking back in on the analyze and calibration step to see how things are progressing. So now that the analyze is completed, I like to look at the quality results for the different frames, and I usually find it's best to go back through the frames and visually look at them just to make sure you don't have any frames where the mount wasn't stable, there was wind or some high clouds or something, and remove those frames that really aren't a very good quality. You can try to rely on just the software identifying them, but it seems like visually looking at them is also a good idea. And so I'm going to kick off the integrate process, and we'll see that get started. Just doing a quick check-in on the integration process here. So this is kind of the satisfying part, the coolest part, where we start to see the work coming together to see the image that's getting produced. So once the integration's complete, I usually end up making some adjustments to the black point, white point, gamma correction, and also the saturation and contrast to do some minor adjustments, and then I'll move on to GIMP to do the final adjustments. So here we can see the results of our captured data after processing with Astropixel processor. So now I'm going to open the image in GIMP so I can apply some more adjustments to try to bring out as much data as we can that was captured. Here in GIMP, I like to do some further adjustments to things like the saturation to increase that a little. Also make some adjustments to the black level and exposure, as well as the brightness and contrast. And then usually it's necessary to do some minor adjustments to the color balance to really bring out the color, as well as the hue. And then once we get all these final adjustments done, we can export this to the different image formats we'd like to utilize after this, such as TIFF, PNG, JPEG, whatever the formats you desire to use. So here's the final image after making the adjustments in GIMP. Thought it turned out pretty good. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. It's really a challenge to build a channel when you're first growing it on YouTube and get enough subscribers. So if you want to do that, I'd appreciate that. And also, you probably heard about the comet that we recently had. I did an interesting video on imaging the comet and then processing all the data captured. And so if you think you might find that interesting, check out this video.